Mythos Busters, investigating the mystery, monsters, and madness of Arkham Horror, the card game.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 151 of the Mythos Busters podcast, which is a podcast about the living... Oh, no, I did that wrong. Oh, well, living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. With me tonight is Ian.
Hello.
How you doing, Ian?
I'm doing pretty good. As we were talking about just before we went on, we seem to be losing hosts at an alarming pace, so I'll try to hold on as long as I can.
Yeah, one per hour, so we got about 45 minutes until one of us apparently drops dead.
Yep.
Mid-show.
Just get Brown Jenkins in the middle of the show.
Yeah. Sean is out for this recording, and Justin was with us. And then he started having incredible technical difficulties, and it's all gone to crap. Mm-hmm. So, might just be you. It's been a while, Ian, since you and I have had a two-person show.
This is true. Got to get cozy now.
I'll just snuggle up there. All right. Well, in this episode, we are going to be talking about our regular stuff, our patron stuff, our news stuff, a few announcements that went out. We're going to give a little recap about BusterCon that's happening, and then we are going to get into the Scarlet Keys rogue cards. But before we do that, Ian, what have you been playing lately? How's your Arkham going?
Well, it hasn't been, I feel like we recorded fairly recently, didn't we? Or maybe time is just flying by. So I feel like I haven't played a ton of Arkham since the last time is my point. At least any new campaigns. I've been continuing my Gunslinger Mark Scavenger Bob campaign through Scarlet Keys. So they racked up another victory, which is a good sign. I have high hopes that they will be the team that will get me over the line in Scarlet Keys. Fingers crossed. Obviously I've played some Gunslinger Mark builds before, but he has some new cards now. But I haven't really tried Scavenging Bob before, and it actually works pretty well so far. I'm pretty impressed, because a lot of the things are just survivor stuff, recycling coats and keepsakes and all that. But the big advantage that Bob has is being able to use his action to play those recycled items out right away. And I'm trying to think of what else that I was using, but there's just, there's so many disposable items in Survivor, but that are really good at doing what they do. They just happen to be fewer uses than similar items, the Survivor gun and the Survivor keys. But with scavenging, you can just kind of keep recycling those. So it's been going pretty well. And then other than that, I've been trying to hone in on an Iron Man investigator. I've been jumping from thing to thing, and I think I've finally settled on Lily.
Okay.
But I just need to build out the deck now. I started building out the upgraded version, and now with the investigators that have did we ever come up? I feel like we came up with a name for these, didn't we? The ones who start in one class and upgrade into another.
We totally did. Or
a listener did. I can't remember. Anyway, I find those investigators sometimes tricky to do the that whole thing that a lot of us do where we build the upgraded version and then try to rewind it back to build the level 0. Those investigators feel particularly tricky to do that with because their deck building is bananas. Class Conflict. Thank you, Creedmoor in chat. Yeah, Class Conflict. That was it.
With your Scavenging Bob build, are you running ice picks?
I'm not, which I should have been. And it was funny because I was actually looking through cards today for something else. And then I saw ice picks and remembered that they existed, and I was like, those should have been in the Bob deck. so sadly, no, but yeah, those seem perfect.
Mm-hmm. All right, and it sounds like, Justin, you have returned from the dead.
I have.
We've scavenged you.
Yes.
Speaking of scavenging, while we were getting you back in the show, someone reminded me that Bob can't take ice picks because he can't go above level 0 survivor. I have totally cheated. Yeah.
The secret comes out.
Or is that a new custom house rule?
Ooh.
Everyone can take ice pick.
Yeah. If you live somewhere where it's cold, you can take ice picks in any deck.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Based on where you live, you should get automatic access to ice pick in every investigator. I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, is that not the reason we made that repository that we talked to last time? Is so anytime we make a mistake, it's actually just a house rule.
Yeah. We don't make mistakes. We call those house rules here.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just a happy little accident. Justin, have you gotten any Arkham in over the last week and a half, 2 weeks? You've been so busy with BusterCon.
I got to play 2 games of Arkham.
Ooh.
Believe it or not. Yeah, right in a row. I think I had previewed this last episode, but Sean and I got to play scenarios 2 and 3 of Dark Matter with our friend Chad. And so we got to meet up, play some in-person Arkham. It was great. It was definitely, I think we had originally envisioned it as doing more that day, or at least in my mind we had. But to your point, Scott, with BusterCon and other things, we had to stop at 2. But it was definitely a point where we're like, oh, I don't know, we were pretty efficient with those. Could we get one more? No, we shouldn't. But no, it was really good. I'm digging the campaign. I'm playing a version of the Vincent deck I've talked about purely because that is what I had constructed at home. And so yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I'm curious to see where it goes because it's both on theme but then also an entirely different theme, and that's a mashup that I think is neat.
I love Vincent. What a neat character.
Agreed.
For my end, I have been no more Ravenquill. Actually, I know some people are really disappointed in that. I will get back to a Ravenquill report. But for me, like, since we're getting closer and closer to Iron Man, I'm finally hammering out my deck list for Luke, and it's really hard because I want to put in all the tricky cards, but then I end up with like 20 cards, and I'm like, can I only take 10 like normal win the game cards, like do the basic ideas of Arkham? So it's kind of balancing my need for jank and also to be someone who actually does something at the table. But yeah, there's stuff like Vantage Point, which is really, like, in solo is an amazing card because you can basically grab one clue for free, pretty much guaranteed. But in multiplayer, like, it's just one clue. So is Vantage Point really that great? You know what I mean? But
and we kind of were talking in our chat recently, like when I was like having an identity crisis, figuring out who I was going to play, about how this is not the Iron Man to go for cute. It's
to faff about.
Yeah, this is the get stuff done Iron Man, because Innsmouth doesn't play around, and so like once we have our Iron Man episode, we'll go into all the reasons why. But like both from a difficulty perspective, but I think also from a time perspective, like I feel like Innsmouth has a danger of being a long campaign if you're faffing about instead of getting down to business.
Yeah. I feel like Edge of the Earth, it has a bit more room for playing around and doing cute stuff. So
yeah,
maybe this is like the serious Iron Man, and then
I mean, this will definitely be the one where the clock is our biggest enemy more than most of the others.
Yeah.
Unless we end up going for 18 hours or whatever we did for Circle Undone.
Oh, yeah, that hurt my body and my soul. I'm still recovering from that 2 years later.
Some scars never heal.
Yeah. Ian, what patron news have we?
First off, thanks to our board members. That's Chris B, Chris H, and Chris M, our conglomeration of Chris's. Morton, Jared, Ian, Kyle, Philip, Patrick, Abilio, Jesse, Chad, Robert, and Walker. Thank you so much for your huge support of the podcast. Playing a huge role in everything that we do, including the upcoming BusterCon, which we'll talk about in a bit. And we do have a special shout out to a random patron this time around, and that is to Leighton. Thank you, Leighton, for your support as well. It is super appreciated. Each time we come along to this segment, I encourage you to visit mythosmerch.com. But I'm going to especially encourage you to do so now as the aforementioned BusterCon approaches, so that you can check out some new lovely BusterCon merch that we have up. I feel like I'm tooting our own horn here, but I'm really in love with our BusterCon logo. I'm not afraid to admit it. And so we do have that logo in its prominent place on a lot of this new merch. So check it out, see if anything tickles your fancy. And yeah. And other than that, I think that's about it for patron news.
That black and gold logo is just chef's kiss.
Oh, it's so good. I am going to jump in there with a quick follow-up, Ian, for the BusterCon merch. One, if you are planning to have some ahead of BusterCon, remember to leave time for shipping. We use a drop shipping company, so they take slightly longer, but that way we don't have inventory to manage, so plan accordingly. And we got asked a good question. I've since clarified it on the website and in Discord, but we will not be having merch to sell at BusterCon. We have swag that comes in the swag bag for attendees, but we're not selling t-shirts and other things. So if you want BusterCon shirts, mugs, other things, order it from the store. That's how we're getting it out into the world.
Moving on to news. Justin, do you want to talk about this little shindig we're throwing together that we're placing?
I can do that. I always like talking BusterCon, Scott. So, registration is open. It's over on the Game Center's website. You can also get all of the information about BusterCon. We now have a web page for it with links to the Mythos merch page and the Game Center website ticket page and everything. If you go to mythosbusters.com/BusterCon, or just go to mythosbusters.com, and I've got it up in the navigation. There's a BusterCon text you can click. Go there, get more information. June 1 through 4th at the Game Center in Roseville, Minnesota. We hope to see a lot of you there. It's going to be a good time. It's not just Iron Man, even though that's the main event on Saturday. I think many of us are as excited, if not more excited, depending on the day, for Dead CCG Day on Sunday. Is that fair?
I mean, yes. It's very fair. I have been looking forward to Dead CCG Day for years now. So
yeah, so we've got that coming up. So make sure to register. We have a hotel block at the Doubletree in Roseville. Scott set that up. So Scott, thanks for that. But yeah, go over to the BusterCon webpage, check out the events we've tentatively got scheduled. If you have suggestions for others, let us know. It's going to be 4 days of Arkham related gaming, or gaming with people who like Arkham, a chill time with cool people. So check it out. We hope to see you there.
I'm so excited. Finally happening. Oh,
I'm starting to get in that mode for Iron Man, but just BusterCon in general, of like actually active hype, like counting down the weeks now.
Speaking of hype, I forgot to mention, because this is an audio medium, but definitely check out the webpage, because we are slowly previewing the swag that's going to be in the swag bag for attendees. And we just unveiled our Buster board. It is a board. I will say similar to, we're definitely trying to have it be our own thing, but similar to like the Team Covenant boards, where you've got the investigator card and then places for other things. Cool fact we've not mentioned elsewhere is we tried to make it so that it is token system agnostic, and so that it can fit the different brands of tokens, or at least many of them, but it's not just locked into one system. So it's not just a variant of a Team Covenant board where you have to use those tokens. It is, hey, you've paid money for a bunch of different upgrades throughout the years. You use what you paid for, and this board is awesome. We've added an extra side tray. That's actually one of my favorite things.
Yeah, that was like crucial for me because I know it's like I want my resources and my clues separated, so I can focus on the important one, which is resources.
Spoken like a true hero.
Yeah.
What's a clue?
Check that out. It's a thing of beauty, and we'll be previewing some of the other swag as we get closer over the next 2 months.
Awesome. Luckily enough, FFG dropped a new article today, previewing a new investigator. The article is the Blob that investigated everything, and they finally made the Blob a playable character, which is awesome. I assume this might be coming out in the next expansion. But some cool abilities. I'm just going to start off by reading the front of the card here. So it's 8L08 Smith, or Blob Smith, normal human. The definitely human trait. He's got 1 willpower, 5 intellect, 5 combat, 1 agility. Action, do humany things like investigate an enemy. That works, right? Fight 1 doom. I don't know. Don't devour anything. And then Elder Sign effect, +1, quick. If nobody's looking, devour this token and draw another token. Devour the second token too. Then draw a third token. If anyone sees you do this, maybe just play it cool. And has 55 health and null sanity. So, yeah. Oh, Reverman brings up it's print and play. So it's investigator box agnostic, which is nice. Then I'll just flip them over, read the deck building stuff. Notice the subtitle change to still normal human being. Deck size is 2.5 inches wide, 3.5 inches long, half an inch tall, or 1.2 inches tall with sleeves. Deck building options, cards from Arkham Horror the card game, like Blackjack, Pathfinder, or Baseball Bat, and deck building requirements, see above. So, quite broad.
Yeah, very versatile. I like that.
And that health pool, that's pretty tanky.
Yeah. Is this the best neutral investigator now?
I mean,
as long as you build in the right amount of soak, because that's that high risk, high reward you get with that health pool. But yeah, you build it right, it could be.
Ian, do you want to tackle the signature ally?
The signature ally is Best Friend. Subtitle, I think his name is Peter. Has 6 wild icons. Traits ally, friend, food. 8L08 Smith deck only, permanent, forced when your turn to end. He's trying to run away again. Test agility 4. If you fail, attach him to your location. If you succeed, flip this card. Action, parlay, there you are. Take control of Best Friend. And Best Friend has 25 health and 1 sanity. And so let's see what happens if you flip Best Friend over. Best Friend, always a part of you. And then this has all kinds of crazy icons now. There's two willpower, 1 intellect, an agility, a combat wild. Ally, Oozified, still good, are the traits. I have to agree with that.
Still good.
8L08 Smith deck only, permanent. You may take 1 additional action during your turn, which can only be used to feed this little guy. Aw. 1 health, 25 sanity in this form. Yeah. I mean, just the soak alone seems like a pretty valuable signature ally there.
Yeah, you gotta hit that test to do it, but man, that'll help.
Yeah, I'm just worried about like some of that, like God, was it in the Forgotten Age? It has like the deal 1 direct damage to all allies. That might be concerning once you get the friend flipped.
What if you're playing Dunwich and your best friend gets kidnapped? That would be sad.
Oof, yeah. Well. And lastly, Justin, do you want to read the treachery, or the signature weakness for us.
Signature weakness, treachery. Really, really hungry. Traded for Fated, End Times, Inevitable, Revelation, Devour Arkham Horror, the card game. Flavor text. Does this mean the game is dying?
Is this the harshest weakness in the game?
Seems pretty rough. Like, you can never play Arkham Horror, the card game again, I guess.
Yeah, but you got to realize this fits so well with their business model right now, where they've moved over to the revised core set. And so there's basically clearancing out the single box cores. And so you get one of those, you get another scenario at a time. It's a low hurdle for what you have to devour.
Yeah.
I mean, but it gets rid of that extra inventory that's sitting around.
Yeah, we might need a FAQ on this, because does this mean it devours just your collection or the entire concept of Arkham Horror, the card game, and then everyone has to go play Marvel Champions instead or something?
Yeah. Like, this could potentially be like a campaign ender, too.
Yeah.
So
it could be a podcast ender. We wouldn't have anything to podcast about it anymore.
Have to switch to Batman, I guess.
Yeah, as it was meant to be.
Yeah. I think
So
Diana...
what made you decide to start this Batman podcast? Well, this card in this game I loved. It devoured the game.
Yeah. Diana Stanley, she can cancel this with her cancel, right? Her special cancel?
I think so. I don't remember the text offhand, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's really interesting. Looks like it's print and play, but it's also going to come out April 1st, 4141. So probably right around the next campaign ish, or
yeah, should be coming out at the same time, I think.
Maybe just after. Yeah.
I mean, we'll have it, even if it's right after or one or two after. We're going to have a good investigator pool to see who we pair it with.
Yeah.
Might have to run this one through Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Could make it real quick.
First turn, draw your weakness. Well,
Well, it was a good run.
we did it.
Finishing is winning.
Just make an announcement if it's at BusterCon. Sorry, everyone, you gotta go home. Arkham Horror has been devoured.
Just start collecting everyone's cards.
Yeah, start turning off the lights.
Walking around with trash bags.
Just
like
sweep their
arms
cards
sweeping
into
and
the...
folding up the tablecloths and just like grabbing everything. Yeah.
Yep. Sounds about right.
Risky. All right. Well, with that news beside us, let's head into our main topic, which is the Scarlet Keys Rogue cards. I know that at least one person on this show is very, very, very excited about this. And I think it's Justin.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm so excited.
Ian, do you want to start off with damning testimony, since you are our rogue person?
The damning testimony is a level 0 rogue asset. It costs 4, gives you 1 intellect icon, item and illicit traits, customizable, uses 3 evidence, action, exhaust damning testimony, and choose an enemy at any location. Investigate your location. If you succeed, you may spend 1 evidence to discover 1 additional clue at the chosen enemy's location. I kind of always like to analyze just like this base level ability to see if it's any good before we look at the customizable stuff. So what do you guys think about like just this base level ability?
In solo, I think this is really, really good. If you have the maneuverability, which you probably will with Rogue, if you're playing, because what's his name, the cheese guy, Monterey Jack,
Yep.
Trish, Finn, probably like your ability to evade and move and get around, and then just grab a clue somewhere easy, and then also grab a clue off theirs. Like, it's just so good.
Yeah, and any scenarios that have like enemies just kind of hanging around, whether they're aloof or cultists that happen to spawn in other locations other than yours. For sure. Okay, I'll go through the customizations then, and we can talk more. Here we go. Gotta take a deep breath whenever it's a customizable card. Search warrant costs 1 tick box. While investigating using damning testimony, you may ignore any effect or keyword on the investigated location that would trigger. 2 tick marks. Fabricated evidence. Damning testimony enters play with 2 additional evidence on it. Gets you up to 5. 2 check marks. Blackmail. You get +2 intellect while investigating using damning testimony. 3 tick marks. Extort. When you successfully investigate using damning testimony, you may spend 1 evidence to automatically evade the chosen enemy. 3 tick marks. Surveil. You may use damning testimony's ability to investigate the chosen enemy's location instead of your location. And finally, 4 tick marks is expose. When you successfully investigate using damning testimony, you may spend X evidence to discard the chosen enemy if it is non-elite. X is that enemy's remaining health. Interesting options there.
I definitely love the fabricated evidence, entering with 2 additional evidence.
I mean, that just seems near table stakes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Expose seems not worth it to me. The final ability to successfully... You can spend X evidence to discard the chosen enemy. I feel like you're going to run out of evidence real quick. And that's 4 XP. That's a... Like, what are you targeting?
Yeah. I mean, the average enemy with no damage on it is what, like 2 to 3 health?
Yeah.
That is, like you said, pretty much your damning testimony's worth already, unless you have the extra evidence on it. And then, I mean, the cases where it's not, as if it's got some damage on it already, in which case, like, why do you need to discard it? Just finish killing it? Or just finish the job.
Yeah, why didn't you just finish it back then?
The one case I can think of are, like, I mentioned earlier, like those like cultist heavy scenarios where it's like a 1 health cultist like far away that you just want to get rid of. But is that worth 4 tick marks? 4 XP? Probably not.
I mean, it feels like something you would use if you're planning for an Iron Man and you're going to Iron Man, or just going through a campaign where you know that's an issue and you're teching just for that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, no.
I guess, you know what? Whippoorwills. I mean, they've been... Yeah. And Dunwich has... Yeah, maybe that's a Dunwich upgrade.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think so.
TFA getting rid of vengeance enemies.
Sure, because it's discarded, not defeated. Yeah. It's true. Is there anything that... There's stuff that gets evidence on cards now, right? Because of Daryl?
Yes.
So you could get more evidence on this potentially? Yeah. So maybe in that case.
I do like extort, like the ability to spend evidence to evade the enemy as well, especially solo. Like if you manage to get away, you can, but it has hunter, like you can still keep it behind you.
Yeah, that's really good for those situations. I think search warrant's pretty good because it's like it's just 1 XP. It's one of those ones where you're like, how often is it really going to come up that there's something on a location? But I know from practice of playing, here we're going to play the game where I can never remember card names. I think me and you are all often in this boat, Scott. Yeah. But
all of Dream Eaters, how about that?
Yeah,
and Circle, the Circle Undone.
Yeah, the mystic event that lets you, investigate, and you can ignore similarly to this, where you can ignore the effects that trigger on the investigated location. Like, I found that's been out. It feels like there's always at least one location or a couple in each scenario that are like trying to punish you for investigating, or failing.
Yeah, I think that's definitely, Justin, like you were saying, similar, where this would be one where you're looking at the campaign and you're teching, and it's like is this going to be an ability that I'm going to use a bunch? Like, I think it's Read the Signs is the Mystic card you're thinking of, where it's the collect 2 clues and ignore stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it totally campaign dependent. But, I mean, for 1 XP, that's, if you need it, that is not bad at all. So
my hunch with this card, which I'm not sure because I haven't played it extensively, is to keep it pretty simple and just grab like fabricated evidence and maybe one other of these abilities and not like I don't think you need to sync, unlike some customizable cards, I don't think you need to sink a ton of XP into this one to make it worthwhile.
yeah, I could sink 5 into it in solo and be quite happy with the extra evidence and then extort to evade something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, speaking of friends in low places, Justin, you want to read our next one?
Sure can. Friends in low places. Level 0, event, favor, cost 0. Test icons are intellect and agility. It is customizable. When you purchase friends in low places, choose and record a trait on its upgrade sheet. Look at the top 6 cards of your deck. For each looked at card with the chosen traits, you may spend 1 resource to add that card to your hand. Shuffle the remaining cards into your deck. Oh, and then the deep breath for the customizations. All right, so it starts with the chosen trait, and then a space for you to write what trait you have selected. 1 tick mark is helpful. When you play friends in low places, you may choose another investigator at your location to resolve its effects. 2 tick boxes, versatile. Choose another trait. Then a space to write in a trait. When you play friends in low places, you may choose one of the looked at cards with both chosen traits to add to your hand without spending 1 resource. 2 more tick boxes, bolstering. Each card added to your hand by friends in low places gains a wild icon until the end of the phase. 2 more tick boxes. Clever. Instead of shuffling the remaining cards into your deck, you may place each of them on the top of your deck in any order. 2 more tick boxes. Prompt. Friends in low places gains fast and the text played during any Zappy Boy window. 3 tick boxes. Experienced. Increase the number of cards looked at by 3. And the last one has 3 more tick boxes. Swift. You may play one of the cards added to your hand, paying its cost.
Whew.
You guys, I read all that. I couldn't tell you what it does. That one melted my brain.
Though what I've used this in Finn for finding weapons. I found that was pretty nice. And also with the icons, the intellect and agility. And honestly, if you put weapon as your trait at level 0, this is just fine. Ian, have you used it much?
I have not, but I agree that I think it has potential. This is one, like, I was like looking through the list of Scarlet Keys cards, because sometimes when I'm like trying to think of new deck ideas, I just look at cards I haven't played with yet, and this is one of those. And I know recently we talked about this because there's a voicemail or email, I can't remember which, talking about this one, but my first thought was similar to you, Scott, like a weapon or like an item, something like that, maybe. And then, of course, because of Rogue, I was thinking of illicit, potentially. So I think there's a few that you could name that would just get you pretty good access. And yeah, I think looking at the top 6 is pretty good. And you can, I mean, even if you look at the top 6 just to get one, like it's just like a glorified tutor just to get a card you want. That's fine. It costs 0. I mean, obviously you have the cost to get it into your hand. You have to spend a resource, but that's fine.
Yeah, I've wanted to put it into a Preston deck and use favor as the trait, because he has so many favors, and also it could possibly find your second copy of Friends in Low
Your other
Places.
copy. Yeah. This is, and I might be wrong, but this is another one similar to the card we just looked at, where my instinct is like, I I don't know if I want to spend a ton of XP into this, like just pick and choose the most useful ones here, because it is like an event. You're gonna play it and it's gonna go away, like, and it's like, it's not like a card that's gonna get you to your win condition, right? This is like a support card, so I don't know, like I want to spend a ton of XP into it, but like helpful, like having another investigator do it, that's always great in multiplayer to have someone else do it. I really like the prompt one, giving it fast, and you can play it during any free trigger window.
I was just thinking Leo could take this. And then you could write ally. And then you could find a bunch of people to sacrifice. Essentially. Yep. Or Charlie Kane, I guess. I mean, look at the top 6 cards, pick the allies you want to grab.
Yeah, actually that's not bad for Charlie.
Yeah.
And see, I'm probably looking at it from a different use case again, as I'm trying to go at it the lowest common barrier here. I get how it could dig for like a weapon or something, Scott, but when I see so clever and then experienced, to me that's I've had to put the experience into it, but once it's leveled up, I'm playing down this card to then know what the next 9 things coming out are potentially. And just that certainty in a game where we have so much chance at certain points. I don't know that it would be worth it, but that's what my brain jumps to.
Well, I think too, if you are playing across from somebody that has Ikiak or some way to prevent bad stuff or discard top cards from your deck or something, you could like place your weakness in a place where it's, you can, totally. Like this is, especially with the helpful option, like this could be a table wide bonkers card. So depending,
you know what?
if you build as a group, so.
Yeah, actually that's true, Justin. I didn't really think about that, but just the fact of like basically controlling the order of cards in the next 9, that's pretty huge. Yeah. Like leave like anything aside.
It's like a mega Gloria.
Yeah, and just like even and being able to reorder it too, obviously. So, and with helpful, like just imagine if you were able to play this turn 1. And then you and another investigator can just like, what the next like 9 draws are going to be for both your decks.
Yeah, that ability to reach down into your deck 9 cards and not necessarily draw like a certain card that you need because it doesn't have the trait, but to put it on top of your deck. So you are essentially drawing it next action or refresh. Yeah, it's potent. Well, certainly honed our instinct on that one. Honed Instinct is a rogue event. Costs 1, has an agility icon. It's gambit traded. Customizable. Fast. Always love those. Play this card only after one of the following conditions is met. The agenda or act advances, or you succeed at a skill test by 3 or more. Immediately take an action as if it were your turn. Max once per round. Without even going into customizable, I am already A-okay with this. But like this is, like if you're playing with a deck that has quick thinking in it, where it's like pass by 2 or more, take an action, this is, you don't have to commit this to the test. You just pay a single resource, which is 1 more than a skill costs you, I guess. But you can control when this happens. And you won't lose this by drawing the tentacle like a skill card would. To succeed at a test by 3 or more, I mean, that's Rogue's bag. And then acts and agendas tend to advance throughout the game. So this card is going to fire.
It's a thing that's been known to happen.
Yeah.
I particularly like the agenda or act advances one just because it's some nice insurance that sometimes agendas and act advancing, I mean, most of the time it's going to have some type of significant gameplay effect. And being able to react to that immediately is not something that a lot of other cards let you do. So you know, if something bad happens, if it hits you with a treachery or like a lot of acts or agendas, like pull out a boss or something, like being able to react to that could be helpful.
And what if you had just set up your deck, digging through 9 cards, putting them back in any order, knowing that this was going to be coming up? You start to get way far down the conspiracy yarn rabbit hole, but it could work.
Yeah. This is like playing like a Doctor Strange deck at this point, where you're like just seeing the future and manipulating the future to set this all up.
And how many actions do we win? 1. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so customizable. The first 5 are just single ticks, and they add a different condition on the front. So reflect response adds you take damage or horror. Situational awareness adds a location enters play or is revealed. Killer instinct adds an enemy engages you. Gut reaction adds a treachery enters your threat area. Muscle memory adds you play an asset. Those are all 1 ticks. And then you have at 2 XP, sharpened talent. During the action granted by honed instinct, you get +2 to each of your skills. Then for 3 XP, you get impulse control. You may include up to 3 copies of honed instinct in your deck. Honed instinct gets -1 cost. And then for a whopping 5, you get force of habit. When you play honed instinct, you may take 2 actions instead of 1 at a time. Then remove it from the game. Is impulse control the best one? Because I feel like putting 3 of these in your deck and then making them free. Oh my goodness.
That's where I'm at. That one jumps out to me right away as the best one. Like the play condition ones, I'm not sure how much they're needed. Like I feel like the succeeding at a skill test and agenda and act advancing gets you most of where you need to be. Like the one I might be interested in is killer instinct and enemy engaging you. That's like that's the situation when you usually need another action. So more than the others.
Yeah, I've played this a bit in Trish, and for me it was whenever a location enters play or is revealed, because I was playing solo, and that's just happening. So, like, you move to a new location, play this, you gain an extra action, you investigate that because you're playing solo, clear it of clues, and keep on moving.
I have a potentially dumb question with this one, because I don't know the windows on things. But so it seems like you can throw this in or throw it down and get to do an action when you normally wouldn't. So that's great, specifically an action. Does that also open up a window for like Zappy Boys and other things that there wouldn't normally be a window there? Or is it only you're doing the one action?
I think it has been ruled that when you get an action, it opens up like a Zappy Boy window on either side, like a normal action has.
Okay. And I don't have any specific cards or use cases or anything, but I was just curious if it is essentially doing even more work than it's saying it's doing by interrupting that normal cadence of when you get to do things.
Yeah. I do like the ability to gain an action when an enemy engages you to get an evade off. That's really great.
Yeah. I'm trying to weigh in my mind the force of habit. Like, obviously doubling to 2 actions is great. And then especially if you pair it with impulse control and you have 3 copies in your deck, then you're getting like 6 extra actions potentially in the game. But then it's also like hefty XP wise. So what are you missing out on in terms of like other cards you could have upgraded to?
Yeah, I guess it depends. Are you planning on looping your deck? Because I feel like if you're not planning on looping your deck, that's a pretty good upgrade. Especially if you combine it with the one right above it, impulse control, where you can get three copies and they're free. And that's 6 actions.
Yeah,
That's
Well,
2 turns.
but then the force of habit, it makes you remove it from the game when you play it, so then you
Yeah.
can't necessarily like loop into it to play it again. But
No, but I think Scott's saying the math is that if so, that's what the 5 experience there, assuming you were already going to have the third one anyway, so that's not extra there, but 5 experience to then have 3 extra actions for the 6 total. So you're spending 5 experience to have potentially a full extra turn every game.
Yeah.
right,
So, or 2 turns actually, because it'd be 6 actions. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It seems pretty good to me.
Yeah, I kind of feel like with all 3 of these rogue customizables, just like I'm kind of happy with them at level 0, and there's a couple of the customizations I would want to take, but compared to some of the customizables we've seen in other classes, I don't really feel compelled to like sink or don't really want to sink a bunch of XP into it. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That actually might be a advantage in some cases, because sometimes I avoid customizables, and that might have been why I haven't played with these a ton, because I see customizable now and I kind of have an automatic reflex of like, oh, that's an XP sink, I don't know if I want to include that in my deck, but that's clearly not always the case.
Yeah,
Well,
one thing I do...
Oh, go ahead, Scott.
I was going to say, one thing I like about the Killer Instinct is an enemy engages you. You can play this during the enemy phase. Like, so they hunt to you, they engage you, then there's a player window, like a Zabby Boy window. So you could take that action, evade them, and then they won't attack you. Like, it's kind of like, hey, Mom, can we have dodge? No, we've got dodge at home. You know?
Yeah. And especially you're in rogue, so you could do shenanigans of like evade with nimble, and then all of a sudden not only do you evade it, but then move away from it during the enemy phase.
Gross.
Yeah.
You were going to say something, Justin?
I no longer remember. It
Okay.
it probably wasn't that important.
Ian, you want to read our next one?
So Disguise is a level 0 rogue asset. Talent traits, trick trait, illicit trait, cost 3, gives you an agility icon. Uses 4 supplies. Actions, spend 1 supply. Evade, you get +2 agility for this evasion attempt. If you succeed and the evaded enemy is non-elite, it does not ready during the next upkeep phase. Quite good. I've used this a lot already. One of the Scarlet Keys cards that I've used a ton. Probably not surprising given my love for evading. But I mean, like, cards in the past that have let you like keep an enemy exhausted and it doesn't ready, like Slip Away, for example, have been pretty useful. So having it on an asset where you can repeat it at least 4 times potentially is super good.
And isn't Slip Away 2 resources? And this is 3?
I believe so.
And this gives you +2 agility.
It is
Slip
2
Away
resources, yep.
Yeah, Slip Away adds an intellect. Or adds your intellect to this. But honestly, most rogues have high enough agility. Getting +2, that's probably going to push you over the edge of, you know, you're probably going to succeed. And you can do this 4 times.
Yeah,
is,
and
I
unlike
start.
Slip Away, like Slip Away, you have to hit the succeed by 2, and this one is just like if you succeed,
Yeah.
then you get the not reading during upkeep phase. So
This one always makes me chuckle from a theme standpoint because I'm just imagining the investigators wearing really bad rubber masks and then walking by, tripping an enemy. Oh, that's only 1 supply. So then it comes around again. Oh, sorry, you clearly didn't recognize me in the same mask I'm wearing, and you trip them again, and you just do it 4 times, and they never catch on.
it's just the glasses and the mustache.
Yes, exactly.
Billy Beyond in chat mentions it's the edge that Kaimani really needs. Yeah. In Kaimani, this card is fantastic. Is this Kaimani's like actual signature card?
I mean, their signature is pretty good too, but yeah,
Yeah.
disguise is definitely another kind of supplementary one for sure.
Yeah. Also in Rita, as Xylo brings up too, because Rita can take this. And I mean, you're evading at 7? Like, you're probably evading. You're probably succeeding. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Good card.
Yeah, and whenever it's a good card, we don't have too much to say.
Yeah.
Does what it says on the tin. It's good.
Yeah. All right. Justin, you want to read our next?
Yeah, we're on to Embezzled Treasure. Asset. Item and illicit traded. Cost 0. Test icon intellect. Zappy Boy. Exhaust embezzled treasure. Move up to 2 resources from your resource pool to embezzled treasure to a maximum of 10 resources on it. Forced. When you resign or the game ends, for every 2 resources on embezzled treasure, an investigator of your choice begins the next scenario of the campaign with 1 additional resource in their resource pool.
I like this in big money decks. It's just, for me, it's kind of like investments, where sometimes investments takes a long time to pay off, and by that time, like, it's just so, it takes so long because you have to exhaust it each turn. Like, if it was just an action to throw 2 resources on it, and you could just keep on actioning, that'd be one thing. But yeah.
And in some ways it's worse, not in the worse in the sense that it's a worse card, but in the sense of like delayed gratification, because you don't even see those until the next scenario you play. And sometimes as Arkham players, we very much live in the now of like, oh god, everything's on fire, like in this scenario, and I'm trying to survive. And so like squirreling some resources away for a rainy day is sometimes tricky. Now that being said, this could be amazing in like if someone takes this in like in our Iron Man or something, and then you're always like a leg up for the next scenario potentially.
I was going to say, you're I don't necessarily need it for Iron Man, but you're also speaking to me a little more as a person about the, hey, let's put this away to use here and to plan and this finance piece. You're speaking to me, Ian. Tell me more.
Imagine if there was a scenario where you actually like hid other things like items, and you could use them in the next scenario. Like, imagine you're like in a casino or something. Yeah,
You should start writing this down.
Win some money and like use that money to. Yeah, that would be a good idea, I think.
Yeah.
Can we add things to the cards too?
Yeah, this would be great.
Okay.
Yeah. My only issue with this is I feel like if you get this early, you usually don't want to spend your resources on it because you need those resources to get up to kind of cruising level with whichever assets you need in events or whatever. If you get this late game when you have a bunch of extra resources, if you happen to, maybe you're broke or whatever, right? You might not have enough actions to really, or enough rounds left to fill this up. And you might not get the full benefit from it. But I guess even if you do it 2 or 3 times, it's probably okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, this is going to be a card where if you draw it towards the end of a scenario, it's like, okay, not worth it to play out. It's a dead card. Could have had something else. But on the other hand, there is always the advantage of like getting out of the gate really quick on a scenario, which is what it can let you do with like starting with extra resources. Like there are some, campaign results that let you sometimes start with extra resources, and it really always feels good. Like you feel like you're starting out super quick when that happens. So,
well, and we're talking about purely from resources, but in theory, couldn't it also be we're passing forward resources, but also saving future actions? Of if we load someone up enough from the free triggered action or whatever the Zappy Boy is actually called in a previous scenario, then there's even if it's only one resource and someone needs that one, that's one they don't have to draw as an extra action.
Yeah. Billy Beyond brings up too. You could put a single copy in your Underworld Market, illicit market deck thing, thus guaranteeing it. You'll draw within the first 5 turns of the game. So
True.
Yeah, that might be the solution I'm looking for with this one. So.
Now this is making me want to switch my Iron Man deck again.
Yeah.
I want to take Embezzled Treasure.
Yeah, you already had such a roller coaster on that.
I know. I don't know. Usually I pick my Iron Man Investigator pretty quickly, and this season of Iron Man, it's like I'm just all over the place.
You whipsawed on that one so hard.
I know. It's the lure of the green.
Well, you know what else could stick on the Underworld Market is a Thieves Kit, which is a 3-cost rogue asset, has an intellect icon, item, tool, and illicit traded, uses 6 supplies, and action. Spend 1 supply, investigate. You may use agility instead of intellect for this investigation. If you succeed, gain a resource. And it takes up a hand slot. This is absolutely fantastic. I think it changed the way some rogues can play solo.
Mm-hmm. This is probably, I mentioned I've used Disguise Kit. Is it Disguise Kit? I can't remember now. The one it's just Disguise is one of the cards we like that. Yeah. Disguise is one of my most played. Thieves Kit is probably my most played Scarlet Keys card so far. Yeah. Just, I mean, what's not to like about it? It lets rogues use their strongest stat to investigate, which is like, this almost feels like it should have been a core set card or close to it.
Yeah.
And if you succeed, you get a resource, which is a rogues want, and you get 6 supplies out of this thing. That feels like a ton, and it is a ton for 3 resources.
Like, it costs 3, you'll probably get 6 back. This doesn't exhaust, right? Like, you can just in over the course of 2 to 3 turns, like, just empty this thing, getting 6 clues, 6 resources. Insanely good.
I mean, there's not much I can say that's a drawback there. It takes up a hand slot, but I mean, so do most investigative tools. So
Ian, that was your tone you use when it's, I don't want to say too many good things so it gets tabooed.
Right. You know what? This card sucks. It's terrible.
Yeah.
This card's totally underpowered. Yeah. Yep.
I don't think this is a taboo target though.
No.
You know?
No,
like,
I'm just making fun of Ian's tone.
But like, I think it's a great card. It's a like an absolute staple, but it's not breaking anything. It's just allowing rogues to, I don't know, play the game the way they play it. Neat. Yep. You want to throw that Thieves Kit in your hidden pocket, Ian?
I do. So a hidden pocket is a rogue event, level 0, upgrade and illicit traits. Cost 1, gives you an intellect and an agility icon. Fast, play only during your turn. Attached to a clothing or armor asset you control. Attached asset gains. You have 1 additional hand or accessory slot, your choice, which can only be used to hold an illicit asset.
This asks a lot.
It does.
Because you need to have a clothing or armor out already.
Which rogue doesn't have a ton of options in class. Depending on what your off class is, you might, but like leather jacket's the big in class option.
I guess you could use what's the coat, the neutral one that lets you evade better?
Oh, trench coat.
Yeah.
I'll say I've included this in several decks, really wanting it to work. And I have gotten it out on a few occasions, but it's always happened to, like, because of the different hoops you have to get out, like sometimes I drew it too early before I got my leather jacket out or whatever into hand. And then I've just ended up pitching it as an icon because I couldn't wait around forever. Or like I'll get my leather jacket out and then I draw this later in the game, and by that time it's like I don't really need an extra hand or accessory slot. Like, it's too late in the game to make a big difference. So yeah, it's just really those like timing syncs. Like, you really need this and your leather jacket and whatever you need the extra hand or accessory slots out relatively early, which might happen in 1 out of however many games,
Yeah.
depending on how good your card draw is.
Billy Beyond brings up that it's another great card for Underworld Market. I agree, for sure. It's just a matter of getting out a piece of clothing that you want to use with it. So, I mean, hey, you know what? Wendy, maybe, with her leather coats, she could take leather jacket as well. And trench coat. It's neat. I feel like we don't have the clothing needed.
Why do we need clothing to have a hidden pocket, right? We don't need that. It's fine.
There we go. Scott talking about us not having clothes again.
Yeah.
Reset the clock.
It's only been an hour.
Like, the reason I kept including it, because I love it in theory, like, rogues do have enough tools that take up hand slots now and weapons that sometimes you do really feel like, I just need another hand slot. Or, there's a lot of good accessories, especially when you're talking about upgrades in Rogue. But yeah, just finding a way to actually get all those pieces together is the tricky thing.
Yeah. Justin, you want to read Hit and Run?
We have Hit and Run, an event. Tactic and Trick traded. Costs 1 resource. Test icons. Combat and Agility. Fast. Play only during your turn. Put an ally asset from your hand into play. At the end of your turn, if that asset is still in play, return it to your hand. Help me understand the use case on this one, guys.
The one that jumps out to me is Red Glove Man, because you can pop him in. You get the 2 of your skills up to 6, and then he pops back into your hand. Possibly you can use it again with another Hit and Run, and then eventually just play the Red Glove Man. Is a big one.
Okay.
I guess there's a few, like, you could... I'm trying to think of, like, the single action, like, Lab Assistant and... what's the one that finds the clue? Art Student? Medical Student for healing?
Sure.
Yeah. The guy who finds you books. Research Librarian. Yeah, I think some of those, probably.
Okay. So it's basically about getting to like fire stuff off a bonus time and then still get to do what your deck does with those allies.
Yeah. I could see it too as like because it's fast, if you threw in like the quintessential rogue ally Leo DeLuca, you get an extra action which would be the first action that you use, and then he would be like a 2/2 soak that maybe you don't take him back to your hand. You get that extra action, and you have to just, walk through a few enemies to the finish line, taking attacks of opportunity, but you just gave yourself 2 and 2. So.
Yeah. At first, when you were talking about the Hit and Run Red Glove Man, it reminded me of like Sneak Attack Gandalf from LOTR LCG. But yeah, this is one that I keep ignoring because, unlike Lord of the Rings, I tend to think of allies in Arkham as pretty not permanent necessarily, but they stick around for a while, or at least I usually want them to, unless I'm playing very specific kind of decks. But I can see, as you were going through some of these examples, how that could work. Like, even like if you're someone with Guardian access, like Skids, doing like a hit and run guard dog, because it's fast, and then just doing something, and then the enemy is hitting you, and guard dog is pinging them back. And if they survive, it'll pop back into your hand. Stuff like that could be useful.
I guess you could also use it, this is a weird one, with calling in favors, which I use in my Desperate Duke deck. Does this go in Desperate too? Because, like, so Calling in Favors allows you to take an ally back into your hand, search the top 9 cards of your deck for another ally, and play it, reducing its cost by X. X being the ally you return to your hand. So you could, like, put into play something like Leo DeLuca, use the extra action to play Calling in Favors, and then play any ally from your top 9 for 6 less.
Yeah.
Which, okay, so if you have... Do we have a Guardian that has access to level 0 Rogue? We do. Like, Zoe could do this, where you pop in Leo DeLuca, Calling in Favors, and you can get the... who's the big Guardian... Like, the backup, it's like the cops that are like 4 health, 4 sanity, like 9 or 10 cost.
Oh, the agency backup?
Yeah, for 6 cheaper.
Yeah.
Just going wombo combo here.
Yeah, I could see that.
Charlie Kane
Sure.
doing this with Calling in Favors to get agency backup.
Yeah, that would be good. Or even if you just need to, like, you're stuck and you have an ally in hand that you don't have the resources for, and just pop it out so you can get some more icons for a test or something with Charlie King.
Yeah. Okay. Now I need to work on my Charlie Kane deck. It obviously needs more Calling in Favors and hit and runs.
I was gonna say, I feel like you came out of this discussion more energized than I thought you would for discussing hit and run, Scott.
Yeah, no, I talked myself into it once again.
Yeah, I think it's very much on the janky side. Again, allies in this game don't tend to be super disposable. Again, depending on the deck you're playing. So, but if you really like are building in a certain way, or you're keeping hit and run in mind, I think it lets you pull off some jank that wasn't really possible before, or not as easily.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll take that. Which is a rogue
Well
event.
done.
Yeah, 0 cost. Intellect and agility icons. Fast and 0 cost. Always love those. Play when you... trick, upgrade, and elicit. Traded. Play when you successfully evade a humanoid enemy or successfully investigate. Play an item asset from your hand, reducing its cost by X, where X is the amount you succeeded by. Attach I'll take that to that asset. That asset gains elicit. I like this in Rita. Because it is a trick, and you are evading people.
Yep.
So,
and usually by a decent amount.
yep.
Yeah.
And 0 cost and fast. Oh. Is this the rogue version of Crack the Case? See what I'm thinking?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I mean, you're doing the class bread and butter thing, in this case evading, whereas Crack the Case is investigating. You can use this for like when you successfully investigate, but at least the way I play it, it's usually for evading.
It's the evading, yep.
Yeah. But yeah, you get an item from hand, so it's that action compression, and you're lowering the cost. So yeah,
this I have dabbled with in my solo Trish. Once again, solo Trish is great, by the way. I found that I used it like once or twice, and it didn't shine. But I just don't think that maybe Trish, or at least the way I play her in solo, is not... Like, my deck isn't designed to take advantage of this. Maybe someone like Finn, who's going to maybe use some guns or some other, like, seeker assets or something.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I've definitely used this in Finn. There's quite a few. I used it in Kaimani. There's a few others. But yeah, just being able to get that item out and for doing what you're probably already going to be doing kind of depends a little bit on like the scenario you're playing, whether there's going to be a lot of targets in terms of humanoid enemies. Again, you can trigger it off the investigating too, but like the evading is the thing.
That was going to be my question, Ian, is that Again, another one that ends up being more campaign tech to make sure there's going to be enough targets consistently throughout to get value from it, or is it a good enough if it only hits the few times it's worth it?
I think it's worth it. I think there's enough humanoids in most campaigns and scenarios that you should be okay.
Okay.
But once in a while, when you run across those scenarios that are like, we're just not really gonna throw enemies at you at all, or at least in the same way you're used to, then it becomes a little bit tricky.
Sure. Well, at least it has useful icons in that case, but I was just curious.
Yeah. I don't know if this is correct, this stat, but I seem to remember someone analyzing it was for talking about Grizzled and the traits and stuff, and people were talking about the humanoid trait, and it's something like 40 to 50% of the enemies in the game are humanoids. Like all the cultists, all the ghouls, like there's so many of them. Like the snake boys, like there's just so many humanoids that anything dealing with humanoids is a really good stat to pick. But I feel like we've like just kicked the hornet's nest with this with this card, Ian.
All right, is this me? Okay. Kicking the hornet's nest is a rogue event. It's level 0. Gambit and tactic traits. Cost 0, gives you intellect and combat icons. Search the top 9 cards of the encounter deck for a non-elite enemy and spawn it engaged with you instead of its normal spawn location. Then discover 1 clue at your location and gain X resources, where X is that enemy's health value. Shuffle the encounter deck.
So go grab that humanoid.
Yep, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like the rogue version of On the Hunt, but it gives you some bonuses along the way too.
Yeah. It is tactic traded, so like Mark could take it. And I feel like this is such an awesome card for anyone who's going to be the main killer and the tanker. Because you're discovering a clue and gaining resources. And taking an enemy out of the deck. So hopefully the squishier seekers or whoever else on your team are probably drawing treacheries, which are usually a little bit easier to deal with than enemies if you're not prepared for enemies. You know what I mean? Yeah. Ooh, Billy Beyond brings up Solo Mark. Yeah. Like, gain a clue, gain resources, and then gives you a target for killing? Like, yeah.
Yep. And it's cost 0. I mean, the true cost is getting engaged with an enemy, but it actually gives you resources back, and like you said, a clue. So, anyone who is willing and able to take on enemies fairly easily will like this one. If they're the kind of investigator that's not cut out for that, then obviously they're not going to like this one as much. But provides a lot of value for you if you do want to.
Yeah, I do like also it engages you instead of its normal spawn location. So depending on the scenario, like this is one of those tech cards where you might be able to grab enemies that would be more difficult to deal with and put them right in front of you.
Yeah. I guess though, I was going to compare it to On the Hunt. I guess the big difference there is On the Hunt, you can grab in elite enemy from the deck. It doesn't specify that, whereas Hornet's Nest, that has to be non-elite, which a lot of times that won't matter. Most elite enemies like aren't in the deck. They're usually like special cases where they get spawned by something, but every now and then there'll be a scenario where that matters.
And Billy Beyond again brings up like aloof enemies. Being able to just grab that aloof one and just put it right in front of you.
Yep. Yeah. Very, very useful card.
Now I want to play Solo Mark again. Solo Mark is such a fun deck because it's just difficult to like, how am I going to get clues? And you can, because he can just boost himself, once a round or whatever. And there's other options, but it's an interesting juggle. And I think my next game's going to be Solo Mark. So
There we go.
I'm gonna make a quick getaway.
Yeah, you are. Quick getaway. It is an event. It is a trick. It costs 2. Test icons are 2 agility. Fast. Play when an enemy attacks you. Evade. Attempt to evade the attacking enemy. If you succeed, cancel that enemy's attack.
Mom, can we have dodge? We have dodge at home.
Yeah.
So does this one, as I'm reading this, it makes me think of, what was the one we just went over it, the honed instinct?
Yeah.
So that had you could pay an experience and have that trigger on an attack, right?
On an engage.
On an engage. Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering if that did the same thing and the math was just different there for when you would have it with upgraded versus not. And then second question, can you chain that off of this? So if you off the evade, if you do well enough, so it could be it's enemies coming at you, it comes to attack you, you're like, nope, just kidding, I'm going to try and evade. Oh, I just crushed that test. Well, you know what? I'm going to take another action and maybe kill this other thing before it can hurt my friend.
Yeah, you totally could. Well, I think so. You would have to do quick getaway. You would have to. So you're talking about the rogue customizable honed instinct. So you would have to take that action, like, so the enemy would engage you, then you have to take that action first, because it hasn't yet attacked you, because it just hunted and it moved and then engaged. Then there's the player window, then it attacks you. So you'd have to take the action from honed instinct first, potentially taking an attack of opportunity from the enemy, but then when it goes to, well, yeah, when you do the attack of opportunity, then you can play this on the attack of opportunity, try to cancel the attack of opportunity, then when it's evaded, it won't attack you. You finish your action in the enemy phase, and now this thing goes to attack you like normal, but it's already evaded.
Okay.
Did that make sense?
So you couldn't just, during the normal course of things, play quick getaway for evade, and so you're testing.
Mm-hmm.
Am I remembering the other card wrong, where you would do this evade, test, if you pass it by 3, then doesn't that open the basically the eligibility for the conditions on honed instinct?
Yes.
So then put that down.
Sorry, I thought you were including killer instinct in the honed instinct thing, where one of the conditions.
No, sorry, it was two different questions. Yeah, I'm saying you can either do the one or this way, like you can chain stuff and keep doing wonky off the normal cadence actions.
Yeah, this totally opens the window. Like you succeed at this agility test by evading by 3 or more. You trigger honed instinct. Now you have an action and an evaded enemy in front of you, and you can do something else in the enemy phase, like something that just moved and engaged your seeker. You could possibly engage it, or kill it, or neat.
Yeah, I mean, when you first look at it, dodge is superior because it's like it's an auto succeed.
Yeah,
there's no test. It's cheaper. And which I think is true and right, because this is like whenever there's a class where it's the natural home for an effect, like Guardian should be the best at doing this kind of thing. But this does, as fits with Rogue, open up some shenanigans because you are doing an evade test, so which is fitting for the class. So yeah, you can do weird shenanigans like that. Like, what if you did that evade test and then use that extra action from Honed Instinct and it's evaded now, and then you use your extra action to do a waylay on it and then just defeat it? That would be great.
There you go.
Yeah.
And this one also works really well with a card we're going to come up on, but Dirty Fighting. Also. And like pickpocketing. But you're right, Ian, like this is Rogue's bread and butter. You put an agility test somewhere or an evade test somewhere, and Rogue can do a whole bunch of wacky stuff. And I'm kind of joking about the dodge thing, because this is rogue dodge, like you said, right? Like it's just this is how rogue does dodge.
Yeah.
So,
and I guess the other way it's better too is like if it's a massive enemy that's attacking everyone, then you have it attack you first, you evade it, and then you cancel that enemy's attack, but then it's also evaded, right? So then the other attacks wouldn't go through to other players. Am I thinking about that correctly?
I think so, because I feel like there's another card that you evade an enemy after it attacks you or something like that, and it did work for massive enemies. But so okay. I think that's correct, but I mean, someone will tell me if I'm wrong. So
yeah. Yep.
But I do think it is a calculated risk. Calculated risk is a rogue skill card. Gambit and Fated traded. No skill icons. Max 1 committed per skill test. Commit only to a test you are performing of any type, and only if it is your turn. Calculated risk gains a wild icon for each action you perform this turn, including this one. After this test ends, end your turn. Sweet. It's the rogue version. We keep on comparing Guardian to Rogue this game, but what's the take the initiative?
Take the initiative.
Yeah, but the opposite.
Yeah. So take the initiative. You want to play as early as possible, and this one as late as possible. Yeah.
And any extra action shenanigans Rogue has.
Rogues and extra action shenanigans, that would never happen.
Who? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that seems good to me. The only problem would be there's just so many good rogue skills, like your nimble, quick thinking, watch this. Like those are just like 3 off the top of my head that I use a ton. And so finding space for another skill card that's like have some wild icons, and granted wild icons are very good. But it's just hard when the other ones give you a little extra action on the side.
Yeah. And like I guess I always like to think, if I had this in my deck, or like if I have it in my hand and I could either have this or Unexpected Courage, this one gives me an extra wild icon on the third action, which is great, but I must end my turn. On the first and second action, it is worse than Unexpected Courage. Yeah, like Billy Beyond says in the chat, it's kind of like Promise of Power for extra action rogues. But you have to use it on the last action, which bit of downside. And I think you hit it on the head, Ian. Like, there's so many good rogue skills that even in a Winnie deck who wants to have like all the skills, there's a certain bar that a skill has to hit nowadays, and I'm not sure if this one hits it for me. So
yeah,
like if you're not better than Unexpected Courage, I'm not sure.
Yeah. What would you say you do here?
Well, could you have this be something that you take purely for? Again, maybe this is the use case is teching, but it's you bring it with knowing that there's going to be a test you need to get as close to certain as possible to hit, and this is going to be your means of doing it. Because let's say you get it so you have a whole bunch of extra actions through different shenanigans, and then this is the linchpin of that. It's maybe not the best use case, but is that a use case?
Yeah, I mean it's a good it's a good final action skill card. It's just it has to be your final action. That's the only thing that's curtailing it for me, is that you have to use it at a certain point in your turn, and sometimes that test that you need to hit is like maybe the first action of the turn.
Sure.
And you can't use this in the Mythos phase like you can take the initiative.
Yeah. Which is tricky because a lot of times as a rogue, and often as a low willpower rogue, I include wild icons specifically in my deck for the Mythos phase. Wild icons that I can't access during the Mythos phase, that's sometimes a hard sell.
Yeah. I have nothing to swoop in and make a funny thing about Stylish Coat. Ian, you want to read Stylish Coat?
Yeah, I'll say this one is not a hard sell for me. Stylish Coat is a rogue asset. It is level 1. Takes up a body slot. Item and clothing. Costs 2. Gives you an agility icon. It has 1 health and 1 sanity. And reaction when you gain 1 or more resources during your turn via another player card effect. Exhaust Stylish Coat. Gain 1 additional resource.
Really great in Monterey Jack.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of turn, you're going to either gain a resource or gain a card. You can. It's either draw a card or gain 2 resources now.
Mm-hmm. Turns out rogues have quite a few options for gaining resources during their turn.
Yeah. Lone Wolf.
Yeah. Watch this. Gregory Gray. There's quite a few. So like your big money decks, this is yet another accelerator. So now you can get even crazier big money totals for sure. But even if you're not playing that style, and you just want some extra resources, it's still helpful it's just that ramp to get out faster.
Even if you're not playing, there's tons of other cards too outside of Rogue that get you stuff like Dr. Milan Christopher, Madame LeBron, David Renfield. Although not really, he's tabooed now, so it doesn't exist. But yeah, there's tons of options outside of Rogue too. This is not a rare thing. So
yeah. And if we looked at Thieves Kit earlier, which gives you an extra resource for each investigate, now you're getting 2 for something you're doing anyway. Yeah.
Oh.
And you could pull it from your hidden pocket.
Yeah, it is clothing. There you go.
Ooh. Okay. Hidden pocket with this. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
and it's stylish.
It is stylish.
Scott's getting excited about rogues tonight.
I am. This happens every time we review rogue cards. I'm like, oh, wow, this is going to be great. But then I play them, and I'm like, oh, I'll just go back to Ursula. So, no, I'm just kidding.
It's like Scott to other Scott.
Yeah.
I guess the one thing I'll say is if you are playing a deck that's not particularly resource intensive, crazy talk, I know, then you probably don't need this. And this is every asset is a cost in terms of you got to spend an action to get it out there. So this technically does nothing on its own because it only gives you extra stuff if you have something else that's getting you resources. So that just means you are spending some actions into having this whole thing get up and running. If you are doing Thieves Kit and this, that's 2 actions to get them both out. So not the end of the world, but this is one of those cards where you have to ask yourself, is this going to be a win more for my deck? Do I really need those extra resources, or do I need something that's going to help me win the game?
Mm-hmm. It's too bad this doesn't work with Jenny. Because not during your turn. Hers is during your upkeep.
Yeah. And she would really rock a stylish coat, I feel like.
She would. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's the thematic part of it, though. You play the thematic deck where, you know what? She's going to wear it and be in style, even if it's not practical, even if there's a cost and she's just having to pay that and too bad. So theme-heavy deck wins even if it doesn't do anything.
Or you just house rule this to work with Jenny, because it's people put lock picks can work on a locked door. So, yeah.
Add it to the list.
Scott, if you'd like to include that on our House Rules repository, you can go to the House Rules webpage, and there's a button where you can submit that for inclusion.
I'll do that. All right. You want to read Big Daddy Chuck, Justin?
Yes, I can read Big Daddy Chuck. Chuck Fergus, level 2. Asset ally. Ally, and Criminal. Cost 4 to get out. Test icons are Combat and Agility, 2 health, 2 sanity. Reaction. When you play a tactic or trick event, exhaust Chuck Fergus. Choose one. That event gains fast. That event costs 2 fewer resources to play. You get +2 skill value while performing a skill test during the resolution of that event.
Yeah, sorry. Vinny corrected me. It's the Little Daddy Chuck, because Big Daddy Chuck is the 5 XP version.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Pardon me. One of the biggest complaints I heard with Chuck Fergus is that he costs 10 XP to get 2 copies in your deck. This is a great way to work up to it and kind of get, like, I mean, so I'll go over the differences. The Little Daddy Chuck is 2 XP instead of 5. Costs 4 instead of 3, so you get a little bit of a discount when you level up. The higher level has a wild icon in addition to the combat agility, and you get to choose 2 things instead of 1 option. So it's like, it's pretty much literally just half.
Yeah. But all the options are the same in terms of power. You just get to choose 1 fewer. But yeah, I really like when they add lower cost versions of high XP cards like this, so that, because sometimes it's so hard to get up to like 5 XP or 10 XP for 2 copies in a deck, like because scenarios don't tend to just drop that much XP in your lap all at once.
Yeah.
Some do, but few and far between. And so you kind of get in this weird place of like, should I piecemeal the XP on cheaper stuff, or do I just get 1 copy now? And it's kind of hard to bridge the gap between level 0 and this big 5 XP monstrosity. But then we have this kind of mid-range version. It lets you work your way up to it. And I really like that. And I feel like, painful admission here, that I haven't played Fergus as much as I want to, even though I love what he does, and it's for that reason. But
Same
with this
here,
lower XP version, I feel like I will, because when something's high XP, it's like you're playing a Chuck Fergus deck. Like you're not doing a ton of other things. You are now a Big Daddy Chuck deck. But with this, you can either work your way up, or you could just stay at the 2 XP version, and that's perfectly good value in my opinion. So,
Ian, I will echo that. I love when it's almost that, I don't want to say downgrade, but that maybe pre-grade of taking a step back to fill out the card pool for different use cases. Instead of so many games, it's all about the upgrading to the next version or the next thing. And that, I mean, one, it introduces power creep, which less of an issue in a cooperative game. But I love the care it shows for the card pool.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I like too that, Ian, you talking about like scenarios don't give out that much XP. With this, like, let's say you get 5 XP, which is I would say about a normal scenario ish of XP. Normally, before we had this, you'd have to either choose to save it all, or get 1 Chuck Fergus, or spend it on little stuff and never actually save up for Chuck Fergus. Now you can buy 2 copies of Chuck Fergus, the lower level one, save that 1 XP, which feels way less bad than saving 5 XP. Next scenario, you get another 5 XP. Now you have that 6 to upgrade to both Chuck Fergus's, and Robert's your father's brother. So
yeah. And within the thick of it, you could even get a first initial copy for to start the campaign with.
Yeah. No, I love that they included this, and it, to me, like the XP, the cost, everything is just perfect. So.
Yeah, that's what I need to do a Chuck deck for next.
Yeah.
Make a note to self.
Yeah. No dirty fighting about this card, so. Dirty fighting.
Just add it to my list of Iron Man possibilities.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep going.
Dirty fighting is a level 2 rogue asset. Has a combat icon. talent, trick, and illicit traded. Did I say cost 3? Cost 3. Limit 1 per investigator. While attacking, parlaying, or attempting to evade an exhausted enemy, you get +2 skill value. Reaction. After you evade an enemy, exhaust Dirty Fighting. Take a fight action against that enemy. Ignore the aloof keyword for this attack. I like this even without the ignoring the aloof thing, because it's basically once per turn get an extra action.
Yeah. I've used this in my boy Finn. Obviously he has that like extra evade, so it's just like, okay, now you get an extra evade and attack potentially. But there's quite a few rogues and people who can access rogue that can get a lot of use out of this. I would also be okay with this if it was just the extra fight action. But then it also gives you the +2 skill value while attacking, parlaying, or attempting to evade an exhausted enemy.
Yeah, like that is just like that's essentially for 3 cost and 2 XP, you get +2 agility, +2 combat. You know what I mean? Like like functionally 90% of the time. That's insane.
There's also those like happens fairly decent amount of the time in campaigns where you get like a boss that you can parlay. And sometimes like I do end up evading them because it might take a while to parlay them, you know, might not do it in one turn. But then if you're able to do that, then you get +2 for the parlay as well.
Yeah, I love this. And it's illicit, so you can put in your underworld deck and you'll see it early, and you can only need to put 1 copy. So
yeah, this is we talked a lot with other cards today about like, because there's some weird like windows with like evading and the card that I already forgot the name, evading to when the enemy attacks you, and then Dirty Fighting could let you take a fight action too.
Yeah, and both at +2. Bonkers good.
Super good card, and it's only 2 XP.
You know who I think this would be great in, and I totally thought of this all by myself, and no one commented this in the chat? Rita. Yeah. Rita would totally take this.
Yes, I am sorry, Xylo in chat. I do love Rita, so I do feel embarrassed that I have mentioned Rita a scandalously limited amount of times in this episode.
Xylo did mention Rita. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't
this expansion is really a big glow up for Rita. I don't know how much people have talked about that or not, but how many of the cards we've talked about today have had trick? I feel like a lot. Like Tons. A solid 70%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. We've got Disguise, Hit and Run. I'll take that. Quick Getaway, Dirty Fighting. So 5 out of like 20-ish. It'll be, and there's another card coming up. So like 6 out of 20. So pretty good. Oh yeah, Thieves School. No. Thieves Kit is... No, you can't take it. Anyways, Ian, you want to break and enter?
Always. I'm always down for a little B&E. Breaking and entering is a rogue event. It's a level 2 rogue event. It costs 2, has the trick trait. Gives you intellect and agility icons. Investigate. Add your agility to your skill value for this investigation. If you succeed by 1 or more, you may automatically evade an enemy at this location. If you succeed by 3 or more, return breaking and entering to your hand at the end of your turn. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity.
The differences are basically this has the return to hand clause in it. And also the old one, it was if you succeed by 2 or more, you can automatically evade an enemy at this location. This one's by 1. So same cost, same icons.
This is a card, another of the Scarlet Keys rogue cards that I've used a ton. It's one of those ones that's a little sneaky that when you first look at it, you're like, 2 XP really? But breaking and entering itself is such a good effect, that compression of investigate and evade all at once. I mean, any cards that let you do two things at once are usually pretty good. But then being able to return it to your hand to get extra uses out of it. And as a rogue, adding your agility to something, you're going to have a fairly decent chance of succeeding by 3 or more. So, gotten some good use out of this one so far.
Yep. And again, another Rita card.
Yep. For sure.
That trick trait.
I mean, it's right there in front of you, Ian, to mention Rita, and instead Scott is just crushing you in the Rita count.
I know.
I mean, I am the survivor, though, so...
It's fair.
Yeah. I mean, like, we all know Rita's not a survivor. She's a rogue wearing a red sports track uniform thing. Yeah.
That is why I've always loved Rita, because she lives in the rogue zone. Like I ran Rita through a whole TFA Iron Man, so
yeah. Who?
You really have to love an investigator to run them through TFA Iron Man, or maybe you hate them because subjecting them to that. Anyway, but I do love Rita, and a really good Rita card, because the place that Rita needs help is in investigating, and by letting you add your agility, it really lets that happen a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, you can make that succeed by 3 happen if you really need it to, I think. So it's a high bar, but I mean, you might need to commit another card or pump up with a talent or something. But if this is your main clue getting with your, like, if it's a solo Rita kind of thing, then you kind of have to make sure you're hitting that. But I mean, what would Rita be testing at, a 8 with this? She's got 2 investigate, right? So she's a 7.
Yeah, at a 7. Yeah. I think one of the interesting things about this card, which is true of the original too, is because you're getting an evade from investigating. So this may sometimes be a plus or minus, but you're testing against the shroud of the location and not like the evade value of the enemy.
Yeah.
Again, which may be a good or bad thing, but it is a good thing in terms of like anything like a lure or anything else that's punishing you for failing an evade. Well, it's not going to do that because you're doing an investigate. You're not doing an evade technically.
And pretty darn good in the Scarlet Keys for in the Shadows people. Is it Shadows?
Confirm.
No.
Are they? It's the concealed keyword, but I think it's called the Shadows, isn't it?
But the what you call them, the decoys things. Not the decoys, but the little dudes, the mini cards. Anyways, you all know what I'm talking about. Justin, why don't you read Thieves' Kit again?
I don't know what you're talking about, Scott. Keep going.
No, it's fine.
We could just do this for another 30 minutes.
No, it's
what
good.
else can we call those little cards?
Yeah.
All right, Thieves' Kit, the upgraded version, level 3, cost 3. Still a asset, takes up a hand slot. Item tool, illicit traded. Test icons, intellect and agility. Uses, 6 supplies. Action, spend 1 supply. Investigate. For this investigation, you may use agility instead of intellect, and you get +1 skill value. If you succeed, gain 1 resource, 2 resources instead if you succeed by 2 or more.
I have yet to upgrade into this. Because I'm not sure that the 6 XP is worth it for the +1 skill value and maybe extra resources. I feel like, and maybe it's mostly because Thieves' Kit level 0 is so good that I don't need... I'd rather take that 6 XP and better other cards in my deck because I'm totally okay with level 0 Thieves' Kit. I'd rather spend it on Chuck Fergus or something.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you there. It almost feels like for 3 XP it should be +2 skill value. I don't know, but even then it's kind of quibbling that, yeah, I think level 0 just gives you everything you need, honestly. And getting like 2 resources instead potentially, yeah, that's definitely better. So I guess if you're really like running like a big super big money deck where you need to pump up those resources fast, then I could see it. But outside of those decks, not sure whether it's needed for 3 XP.
Mm-hmm.
Well, or you could even run one of these in one of the base level ones, and it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and like this is not. It's not to say that this is a bad card. This is a good card. It's just that level 0 is just so good.
Yeah.
It just does everything I want it to do. Yeah.
Yeah, they just raised the bar so high on the level 0 that
Yeah.
not a lot of places for the upgrade to go.
Yeah. Hopefully I didn't trigger anybody. I am known as the Trigger Man. Just kidding, I'm not a Trigger Man. But Trigger Man is a rogue ally asset. Costs 4, level 3. Ally and criminal traded. Has a combat icon. And reaction. After Trigger Man enters play, attach an illicit asset from your hand to Trigger Man. It is considered to be in play and under your control. And Zappy Boy, exhaust Trigger Man and spend 1 resource. Resolve an action ability on attached asset without paying the action cost. Resolve that ability with a base skill value of 4. And has 2 health and 1 sanity. What are you going to put on him?
Well, I have used this one on several occasions. So obviously, like, as fitting for his name, like putting a weapon on there, and then you're getting, especially for those rogues who don't necessarily have like a high starting combat, like fighting with a base skill value of 4, you're already starting higher, and it's not taking an action. But I've also used stuff like just. It doesn't have to be a gun. It could be. I've thrown lock picks on him, getting some extra investigating, and still, even then, no matter what, it's a base skill value of 4. So you're starting at a pretty good level.
Yeah, I mean, you could use damning testimony, which we talked about earlier. If you have a really low intellect rogue, bumps you up to 4, and now it's like, doing all those crazy things that damning testimony can do.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah,
I think he's a cool little ally, like, because it gets you the asset from your hand to him automatically, so you don't have to spend a separate action for that, and then saving you all the actions for using whatever that asset is.
Yeah, and you can still use that asset, like if you put like the 45 Thompson on it, you can still use the Trigger Man and then still also use the 45 Thompson. Just as a normal gun. Like he basically holds it for 1 shot and you're like, give me that back.
Let me see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I like this ally a lot.
I need to build an illicit deck. Oh my goodness.
I feel like we should have kept a list of which decks you guys said you were going to build in this episode. Because I think you each have 3, if not 4. and there's nothing
Somewhere
wrong.
Close to
there's
47 each.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I just want to know what they are and see how they go.
Okay, well I remember Solo Mark and an Underworld Market illicit deck. That's what I have in my brain. So
I'm gonna show up to Iron Man with like 6 decks and be like, guys, what should I play?
Yeah. And they all share like 10 cards.
Yeah.
And then Ian pulls his deck out and goes, all right, I'm ready. And we go, all right, we'll see you over. It's happy hour. We're done. Thanks.
Just played without you.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Ian, why don't you read Underworld Market so we can talk about this card at length?
Oh, yeah. We have mentioned this one already a few times. So this is a level 2 rogue asset, connection and illicit traits. It costs null because it's permanent, exceptional, so it's actually 4 XP. You get plus 10 deck size. Reaction: before drawing your opening hand, choose 10 illicit cards from your deck. Shuffle them together and place them next to Underworld Market as your market deck. Reaction: at the start of your turn, reveal the top 2 cards of your market deck. You may spend 1 resource to draw one of them. Place the rest on the bottom in any order. Yeah, we've mentioned this a few times. So, listener, if you were previously confused and wondering what the heck we were talking about, hopefully it makes sense now, and maybe you can go back and listen to it. But yeah, this is why we were saying that certain cards that had the illicit trait, you basically could guarantee seeing them relatively early in the game, because there's 10 cards in the deck, and you get to see 2 each turn.
This is I forget the name of the Seeker card, but the permanent that adds 5 deck size. Then you have to choose 5 skills, or sorry, you take 5 skills and you shuffle up all your skills, put 5 random ones under there, and then each turn you can essentially draw one or whenever you want. It's a Zappy Boy action. The fact that you get to choose the 10 for this is unbelievably good. Because you can do thank you, Billy Beyond, ancestral knowledge. You can put one ofs in here, and you're putting very specific cards, like a few we mentioned, in this deck, and you're going to see them early in the game. And I think that is the ability to show you certain key pieces of a combo or a setup within the first 5 turns of the game is fantastic. Does cost you a resource to draw them, and heaven forbid you put 2 one-ofs and you see both of them at once, because it's going to be another 4 turns ish until you can draw them again. And you do need a little bit of money to make this go, because you do have to use that resource. But I mean, if you can get Fence in your deck, that can help you a bit with the illicit cards. Or my favorite rogue card, Faustian Bargain.
Yeah, it just opens up a lot of possibilities and making certain decks in Rogue a lot more consistent. Rogue has some card draw options, but it's not like super flesh in card draw compared to some other classes. So just like being able to guarantee that you're going to see certain cards within the first few turns is huge, and not a lot of cards in Arkham Horror, the card game, can do that. So even just on that basis, it's pretty useful. I'll say I've tried it in a couple different types of situations. I've tried it in a deck where it was like, let me throw like 10 toolbox illicit cards in the deck, and I'll pick out ones when I need them. And then I've tried them in a deck where it's like, okay, these are cards that are really essential to the deck, and that's why I'm using Underworld Market. And I'll say the second use case was a lot more useful. The first use case, there were turns where I was like, okay, I don't really need those. So I think it's more, this card really sings when it's letting you get those cards that are kind of crucial to your deck right away.
Could you, if you really cared about the certainty of it, or as close to certainty as you can get, so you have this firing off for those must-haves, and then if you paired this with, what was the one we read earlier, the Friends in Low Places, if you did that, more the certainty for your regular deck for the order. Again, I don't know the values there, but if you have the upgrade version of that, you're running this, you basically know, for the next maximum of 9 turns with your regular deck, and then you're going to at least kind of know with the Underworld Market deck where things are at. For a good chunk of a scenario what's coming up for you.
Yeah, and like if you're looking to making like some kind of combo pieces like fit together, that Friends in Low Places combined with this, like you can find the pieces you need, most likely.
Yeah. I like how Rogue is kind of known as like the wild card, like loose cannon class, and I love how Justin is finding a way to take these cards and make it into the most ultra consistent deck possible.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, am I bringing order to chaos, Ian?
Yes, you are.
Are we surprising anyone with this?
Nope.
Side note about that, I was fixing a bunch of links on our website today for old episodes because we had to change our hosting when Nick left, and it was, I mean, the actual use of the word interesting, not a Midwest passive aggressive interesting, but it was interesting to watch how things have evolved from the different types of, it wasn't chaos, but there was a different type of order, and then as we've hit a different stride and then had more process around things, and so that's That's what it makes me think of.
Ian, do you think you would take this in your Underworld Sophist Jenny Red Clock deck? I don't know if you have enough elicits, but...
Yeah, I would have to take a look at that deck list again to really get a sense for it. I'm gonna try to pull it up as we talk. But I mean, in theory, that kind of deck, even if that exact deck doesn't work, would be perfect for it in terms of like there are key cards that you really need to get. It just depends on. I'm okay. I found it. I'm looking through. Like the red clock is not illicit, unfortunately. Yeah. That's the big one.
Neither is the black fan.
The black fan is not illicit. Yeah, which are kind of like the two big ones. High roller's not illicit. Well connected's not illicit. Yeah. So probably not for that deck, but
yep.
But yeah.
But maybe friends in low places though in that deck. For a relic. Like search the top 9 for a relic.
Oh yeah.
And it's already a 25 card deck. Now you're down to like 20 cards after the game starts. Like you're searching more than half your deck.
Yeah, I might need to put friends in low places in there. Yeah. Note to self.
Yeah. It's just, all this rogue talk. I just made me think of my favorite rogue deck, which is that one. So Justin, you want to sneak us away?
I will, and it will be a clean sneak. All right, clean sneak, an event. Gambit, trick traded. Cost 0, 4 XP. 2 agility icons. Fast, play only during your turn. For each exhausted non-swarm enemy at your location, choose a different option. Gain 2 resources. Deal 2 damage to that enemy. Discover 1 clue at your location. Draw 1 card. So as I'm reading this, that's a lot of XP, and I don't often play rogue. How many of those do you need to fire off to be worth it?
It is fast, which always like fast and 0 cost piques my interest.
Yeah.
Discovering a clue. Like I'm also thinking of this from a solo perspective, because I feel like in a multiplayer game, but multiplayer you're more likely to have more enemies out. Like I feel like you need to hit 3 for me to want this.
Yeah, like at least 2, but I'm not sure how good I feel about 2. And you have to choose a different option, so you can't like repeat them.
Yeah, but you know what? It is trick traded, but it's level 4, so Rita cannot take it, which sucks.
Like discovering a clue is always going to be a good. Dealing damage to an enemy tends to be good. Drawing a card. I mean, I like cards in a card game, but for 4 XP, 1 card. And then 2 resources. Again, I'm rogue. I probably got other ways to get resources that aren't 4 XP. If you put it together with like 2 other of these effects, yeah. But it's tough.
Well, and if you have to hit, let's say 2, or let's go with 3. So you had to have exhausted the enemies already in the lead up, and so they're all there, and I don't know. Again, I don't play rogue a ton, and it just seems like in order to get this to be worth it consistently, it's a real slim band of situations where it would actually happen. But I might be wrong.
I think what you got, like, to me, I agree. It's asking so much of you to set up. And that's where I'm having difficulty. And Billy mentions in chat, good solo card. But like, when are you gonna have? If you have 3 exhausted enemies at your location, which if you're solo, you just exhausted them. Like, sweet, you get to do 3 of these things, and then next turn you have 3 more enemies on you. You know what I mean? Like, they're back. It's tough for me. I don't know. I don't think I like this card.
Yeah, you need to have enough enemies out on the board to make it worthwhile, and then get them exhausted. I'm not too worried about getting them exhausted, like it's rogue things, but having those out, so it feels like more of a multiplayer play potentially, to me at least. Like if you're solo, you could easily get one of these, but it's the XP for 4 XP, like 8 if you're taking 2 of these. Like, I can do so much with 8 XP and Rogue that's going to be longer lasting and not just be like a one-time use thing.
Yeah. Like, I feel like instead of 1 copy of this, you get 2 break and enters.
Sure.
Because break and entering is 2 XP, right? The upgrade one?
Yeah. Yep. And you get a clue and an evade off of that. You're getting 2 things from that.
I have another question. So you mentioned Rita can't take it, and that's because it's level 4. She can only take to level 3.
Yeah, 0 to 3 tricks.
So this is in the realm of hypothetical, but let's talk house rules, right? If you house ruled this, well, I guess you probably wouldn't change the cost of this, but if you house ruled it that specifically for this card, Rita could take it, would you like it?
I don't think so, because I think the issue isn't who's taking it. The issue is achieving the cost of this card, and the cost being having that many enemies. And like Rita would be great at exhausting, but she also has to draw that many enemies and get them evaded, and I just don't know if the rewards for all that work are worth this. So
I might think about it in Rita only because for 2 reasons. One, she's in Survivor where there's not as much of a XP pressure, and 2, she really stars for clues sometimes, so being able to just get a free clue. But still, I mean, it's a hypothetical. It's a good hypothetical to talk about because it's like, what would make this car worthwhile? It's just hard for me to get there at 4 XP. What XP would feel right for this? Like 2 XP?
Well, here's the thing. I'll throw this out. I'm not even sure it's an XP issue. I think it's the rewards that are offered. Because, like, let's imagine this at 0 XP.
Okay.
You have to evade something. If you invade 0 XP, yeah, I'd probably play it.
So, yeah, that would be... I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
because then I'd be okay doing it twice, right? Or using it for 2 things.
You would only need 1 enemy because, like, just like 0 XP, 0 cost, you evade something and get a clue, like that's super worth it, even if it's just that.
Yeah,
I think I would need it to be at 1 or 2 just for how I conceptualize it, but
I think 2 is the highest I would pay.
Oh my god, that's a segment we should do sometime, is just bidding. Like, how
Like
many,
Price is Right.
Yeah, how many XP would you pay?
That's actually really good. I like that.
Yeah, I'm not unfortunately excited about this card, but which is crazy because I mean this box has been amazing. Someone has to come last at the Olympics, right?
Yeah. It's funny because this is like the big like finale card because it's the high XP one.
Yeah.
But I think like the rogue cards in this box, a lot of the ones we talked about today are just like super good and really help advance rogue forward. But this one, not so much. But that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I do like how they had to specify non-swarm enemy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, Underworld Market costs 4 XP, kind of, because it's exceptional. But
sure. Yeah.
Ian, you want to know a really cool fact about all the rogue cards in this box? Not a single card came with a willpower icon. Just throwing it out there.
As it should be. Everything in its place as it should be.
Oh.
I don't even know what that icon is anymore.
Well, what are your guys' favorite cards out of this box? Justin, do you have a top one or two?
I mean, I'm gonna go with Friends in Low Places just because I'm super curious about it, and it brings order to the chaos. And
Yeah.
and maybe I'm thinking it does, or that's more helpful than it actually is, but that's a neat thing that I want to try.
Yeah. I think for me it's Underworld Market. But a close second is Friends in Low Places for the exact same reasons you said, Justin. Order to the chaos.
Right. Underworld Market, so I'm not as plugged in on the player cards in general, but that one's fairly universally beloved right now, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
Well, that's good to know. And then, Scott, you will get around to playing with Friends in Low Places before I will. I want to know how it goes because I'm super curious.
Okay.
I mean, I'm gonna fawn over a few cards here as the rogue player, but some of the bread and butter ones like Disguise and Thieves Kit and Breaking and Entering 2, like those cards are gonna be in rogue decks forever now, for the foreseeable future. Some of the like maybe not as bread and butter, but super powerful shoutouts. Dirty Fighting, I love. Think it's super powerful. And I like Triggerman a lot too. So just a lot to love. Really.
A lot of really neat enemy management in this box for Rogue. Which is nice to see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that spins us off into a little bit of tentacle time. Ian, what's been grabbing you lately?
Oh, I'm trying to think of what I've been playing lately. So, I got a few Kickstarters arrive, and I've talked about this game previously on the podcast. I'm pretty sure I have. Final Girl, which is a solo-only game based off Hostage Negotiator was the original. So basically, they had Series 1, which I quite enjoyed, played a lot. And then Series 2 just arrived from a recent Kickstarter with a bunch more kind of different like scenarios and killers to play against. And so I just got a chance to crack into the first one, which is based on Alien and Aliens, which is amazing because I love those movies. So had a lot of fun with those so far. Don't want to spoil too much for people who are going to play, but there's a lot of fun like environment effects in that particular map. It's like a spaceship map based on like the ship from Alien. So a lot of the things that you would want to do in an Alien type scenario, it lets you do. And so a lot of like interacting with the ship and like ship systems and fun weapons from the Alien series. So I'm looking forward to delve into the other one. Like they have a one that's kind of based around the Thing. So I'm curious to try that out. And some of the other ones that are in there. And the other thing that I really like I think all board game players can appreciate by this point is like a good storage solution, like a game that provides you a good storage solution. It's like one of those small things in life that feels so good. So what they did is like as part of the Kickstarter, you could get these storage boxes, and so they contain like all the Series 1 and Series 2 stuff. And another small thing that I wish more companies would do, because sometimes you get these storage solutions and you have no idea where the heck you're supposed to put all the components. But this one comes with a nice illustrated example of like, you put this component here, you store this component there, and just walks you through it, and everything stores nicely. I got both Series 1 and Series 2, which we're talking about a ton of content, and they all fit within one nice calyx square in my game storage, and it's a thing of beauty. I love it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love a good storage solution. And Weather Machine, a board game I bought a few months ago, it came with the same thing where like the insert is perfectly made for all the different tokens, and there's a guide to it, and like and also parts of the insert come out and they're like mid game storage, so it's like you set them near the board, and that's where the tokens go. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I know. Yeah.
Justin, what's grabbing you?
Well, the Dying Light playthrough progresses.
Ooh, yeah.
So every Monday we play that. Last week we got, so there's 4 of us playing. I basically beat the game myself, and then I'm coming back, but I was very purposefully not using the grappling hook while playing with others. And then we got 2 of them the grappling hook right at the end. And nice. The initial comment was, "How have you not been using this the whole time?" And I told them, yes, that's correct. It was because I love you guys, because I didn't want it to just be me zipping around. I want us to all do it together.
Yeah.
So the last person will hopefully have it next week. So as you know, Scott, that kind of changes the game.
Oh, it changes from Dying Light into a Spider-Man game.
Right.
Yep.
So that's going well. Still playing Marvel Snap. Enjoying it. I've talked about this with you two, throughout the week and such, but trying to figure out a way to do more playing with friends on that, because I think that's where I'm going to land with a sweet spot pretty soon, because I've finished Series 3. I've got some of the cards I want, and just, I don't know, some of the randomness is fun, some of it not as much, and so I think I'll keep playing it for a while, but I'd like to find ways to play with friends more. That just seems better, and then you can actually have polite trash talk with each other as opposed to just the random emotes.
Yes.
Yep. And then I'm just going to mention it in honor of Sean not being here. But today I started playing Midnight Suns. So I don't have much to say on it, but that way someone's talking about it since he's not here. I sent him a picture of my TV showing the logo of it, and he was very excited. So, yeah.
Yeah, I still got to look into that game. Just so many games, so little time.
That's where I landed. When he was over here this week, I told him I would get it the next time I saw it on sale, and that happened to be today. But then I also said, but there is my backlog, and that doesn't count the digital stuff, and so I probably won't buy another game for a while after this one. But he's been such I won't buy another video game. How about that?
Okay, fair.
I'm working on getting rid of or paring back my board game collection. But as you know, when you saw it when you were here, I have a problem. So
I am also working on that. It's a long, slow process.
Yeah.
Scott, what have you been playing?
It's Set a Watch is still grabbing my attention. Speaking of storage solutions, they just finished their Kickstarter for their last expansion, and it's going to have a storage solution for everything in the game in one big box. So I'm just really excited for that. And then also the game content, but the storage is just going to be amazing. And then I also, recently my brother-in-law introduced me to a band that I am super loving. I know we've introduced a few listeners to various bands over the time. We've been having technical times. So, and Ian, I sent you, I shared a track with a few of you, and I know you like this one. And the band is called, it's a big long name, The World is a Beautiful Place and I Am No Longer Afraid to Die, is the band name. And specifically the song Marine Tigers. And it's on their album Always Foreign. That album I'm finding to be fantastic, and all their stuff is great. It's a lot of kind of like post-rock, but post-folk, I guess, with a horn section. And a lot of
I think that's accurate.
Yeah, it's like soundscapes, like long songs and songs with movements almost, like you have like, there's like the second section of the song and stuff. So I posted a link in chat there. I've been loving their stuff. But Marine Tigers is the song that like really hooked me. So
Yeah, it's quite good.
all right, guys, we did it. Another one in the books.
Woo!
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for episode 151 of Mythos Busters, and we'll catch you all next time.